What is going on, guys? Week 7. We are over halfway now. Home stretch, some might even say. So today we're going to talk about mastering your boundaries. Interesting, because before, up until this point, we've discussed pretty tactical, straightforward, nuts and bolts type stuff. Sleep, weight, scale, all that good stuff. And now we're going to talk about boundaries that you need to set with people, you need to set with yourself. We should all have rules. And so maybe you found this out already, maybe you're yet to find it out, but you most likely will. Whenever you set out to do something for yourself that's empowering, it threatens other people's status quo and puts the mirror on them, and therefore they get insecure and want to project their insecurities onto you. If you're aware of that potential and you understand that that might and most likely will happen, you can arm yourself to defend and to be more resilient when that does happen. So some examples I will give you is a friend of mine who, by the way, is crushing it right now. She's doing so good. I won't mention any names, but she's lost 17 pounds already. But the first few weeks were really, really hard. She was stumbling out of the gate. She was still so identified with this previous version of herself that she kept getting pulled back into these situations where she'd be tempted to drink, tempted to eat. Every single weekend, she would go off the rails. Monday morning, she would essentially erase all the progress that she had made Monday through Thursday. So she worked her butt off, super focused Monday through Thursday, would lose 2 or 3 pounds, go out on the weekends, let it all loose, weigh in Monday morning, gain it all back, and then some. So her weigh-in graph was for about 2 or 3 weeks. We had conversations. She's she has a very growth mindset, which is fantastic. So she understood what was going on. She accepted what was happening. She admitted it and took responsibility. And she set boundaries. And so she told her friends that she wasn't going to go out anymore. These were friends she's had for a long time. And her friends reacted really poorly, and in fact just kind of ignored her text and gave her a really hard time about it, and it made her feel like shit. But what it shows is like how much your behaviors, like how much people perceive you and like have an idea and an identity of who you are. And then when you change that, all of a sudden their perception of you is now changed and altered, and they don't know how to handle it really. It threatens them, because if you all of a sudden start getting really healthy and losing a bunch of weight, and your friends, your top 5 friends, who, by the way, you are most likely an average of, the top 5 people you hang out with, you're most likely an average of that. If you start dieting and changing your routine and exercising, and your skin's glowing, and you lose 20, 30 pounds, and you pass up on the big weekend binge night out, or you go to a restaurant and you're just ordering your chicken breast and broccoli while they're stuffing down pasta and putting down, beer, guess what they're gonna start thinking? They're gonna go, oh shit, right? And if they're a very conscious human being, they'll be humble about it and congratulate you and honor you for your hard choice. If they're still struggling with their own life situations, are probably going to manifest that in reacting, belittling, undermining, tempting, putting peer pressure on you. So all this to say, guys, it is your responsibility to set boundaries, very clear boundaries with those people in your life that could potentially be a saboteur, because you can't really blame them for acting how they've always acted around you, because that's the identity and that's the relationship that you were equally responsible for developing with them. So to change that now, you have to be 100% responsible, because you're the one initiating the change. And if these people are important to you and you want them in your life, then you need to have that conversation. It doesn't need to be awkward, right? You don't say, hey, Paul, I need to sit down and talk to you. No, you just say, hey, so here's the deal, dude. I just signed up with this coach, and wasn't cheap, and I'm super committed to this weight loss program, this weight loss journey. My doctor says I have high blood pressure and I'm pre-diabetic, so it's kind of important stuff. So just FYI, if I don't have a handful of beers with you tonight, don't take it personal. you're still my boy, or you're still my girl, or whatever. But that's just what that's just the kick that I'm on right now. And if they're cool, they're gonna be like, fuck yeah, awesome. And if they give you shit, then you might want to reconsider who you're hanging out with. Okay, so there you go, guys. And by the way, I'm gonna tell you right now, like, let me give you just a real quick backstory on me. I came here to Hollywood in 2005, 15 years ago. I was going out every night, going out every single night. I was drinking like a fish. I was eating whatever I felt like, whenever I felt like it. And I wasn't walking the walk. I wasn't walking the walk. And recently, I would say a handful of years ago, 5 years ago, I got serious and I started really examining the people in my life, those 5 friends that I was the average of. And I started to ask myself honestly, are these the kind of people that I really want to associate with? And that's hard because they're your friends and you've known them for a long time and you have an emotional attachment to them. But if you're really honest with yourself, like, are they actually helping you get to where you want to be? Are they inspiring you? Are they challenging you to be a better version of yourself? Or are they pulling you into sort of like back into the shadows, and nipping at your heels, so to speak, to pull you back into the shadows because it makes them feel better about themselves? So about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I just started pulling away from those people in my life that were causing that kind of stress and creating that kind of environment for me. And now I have a much smaller circle of friends, but the ones that I do hang out with are motivated, they're healthy, they're supportive, and I truly leave those hangouts feeling more inspired than when I went into it. Like it's a much healthier relationship. So when you're creating your environment, guys, this isn't going to happen overnight, but it's a process you're going to have to go through, because if you're trying to seriously get yourself fit but nothing in your life necessarily changes, it's going to be really hard for you, and most likely isn't going to happen. And so you have to take ownership of everything, including the people and the situations that you find yourself in. And that might mean passing up on a dinner. That might mean passing up on a birthday, or going to a wedding reception when you know you're going to be tempted. That might mean passing up on, happy hour with your coworkers that you might have been doing for years, every Friday or every Thursday night for years. But here you are, needing to get yourself healthy again. So you have to examine those situations that were probably somewhat responsible for getting into this place to begin with. So the more awareness, the more responsibility we can take, and the ownership we can take over this process, and set those boundaries with people that are close to us in our lives, that you don't go out past 10. You're in bed by 10. You don't go out past 8 or whatever it is. But get clear on that, and create this version of yourself that you can be. All right, see you guys later. Thank you all.